so you ever build something and see your engineering flaw? We had a good run.
Yeah.
Go! If you can see the trail of floor dry there leading to the pickup, I think it's safe to say not every plan goes as planned. But let me back up and kind of explain how we got to this point. So if you can see all the puddles behind me, about a week ago we started getting rain, and the rain just kept kind of coming. So we've been sitting here between 7 and 10 days of rain. Yesterday, of all days, we were actually able to get in the fields. Now, it was very, very, very short-lived. Starting about Friday night, we were actually able to get back in the fields and just in a couple spots, and we got some trucks in the field, and then we also got the ripper in the field. And then yesterday, about mid-afternoon, it started to rain, and that brought everything back to a screeching halt. So when the rain starts, we transition from in the fields or on the job sites to back in the shop and start fixing stuff, repairing any breakdowns we got, but then we also try to see if we can't make some things better. Now, this truck and this project are kind of tied together. We bought this truck in 2016, and down in, I believe it was either Kansas or Nebraska, brought it back up here. And up to this point, it was up to the last couple of years, it was really just like a backup truck. As the years rolled on, the guys started really liking this truck. And so it went from kind of being a backup truck to kind of more of a primary truck. Now, when we do that, what happens? More and more tools get put in, and they get driven more, and more parts get put in the trucks. And all of a sudden, you know, well, you gotta start changing some things. Up to this point, this truck, we just had a fuel tank in the back. It was on the back end of the truck. But what we didn't like about it is we had the hoses and the power cord just wrapped up in the back. So you always had to climb up there, get the power cord out, get the fuel hoses. And we just wanted to make it better. Kind of our goal always is to make it so we can just grab the hose and turn the power on for the pump, just stand on the ground. We have other trucks here that we set up that way. But again, this one being kind of a backup truck, not a primary truck, it was never really a big deal. Well, now that it's moved up the depth chart, kind of just wanted to make it better. In this rain spell, my dad was able to find a tanker on Marketplace.
Oh, you're doing good. Nice even strokes.
That had the right dimensions that should allow us to fit this tank in the back of the truck. And then it would allow us to move the fuel tank closer to the back of the truck to kind of improve ride quality and just make it overall just better. Well, we bought the tank, and then we quickly ran into a problem. And the problem was the tank fit in the back of the pickup bed, but it was too tight with the brackets that we had made for the headache rack. Hold it. Still a little tight. Still a little tight. We'll get it. Nothing's ever that simple, right? Trying to get this new fuel tank in, or new to us. This was an awesome Facebook purchase, but we got to get a little more room in between these brackets right here. Fuel tank did fit in the service body, but what it hit was actually the headache rack. Now, the headache rack my dad built, and we always build stuff like this so we can put exterior lights on it, and we put flashers on it, strobe lights on it, etc., and just kind of makes it really nice. But we found our first problem. Now we have to modify the headache rack. Okay, so you ever build something and see your engineering flaw? All right, so here's what we got going on. We have the headache rack there, and we're trying to get this new fuel tank in it, but there's actually these two support brackets for this back headache rack that are back here. And, well, there's not enough clearance between the walls with that support, so we actually got to cut them off. Now, to do that, it's not going to be easy. We actually got to pull the headache rack off. But if you can see, I have all these wires going to light all that stuff up. And, well, we're going to cut that. And then we're going to splice that. I think the end result's going to be better this way, but, oh, I'm not looking forward to it. But here we go. We can see clearly what we got to trim out to make this tank fit. But the problem is it's all hardwired. There's no splices in it. And so if we want to take the headache rack off the truck, we got to cut a whole bunch of wires. And, well, that's what we did. That's exactly what we did. And okay, so it worked out. We were able to get the headache rack off. So that's what I did. I cut the hot wiring harnesses, and we got the headache rack off, and we got it on a bench, and we started cutting it and trimming it.
It'll sit right on it. It'll leave the other way. Right there.
Pretty soon we were able to get it back on. A lot of work for just a fuel tank, but the end result is going to be really nice when it's done, ain't it?
Oh, this is the slickest setup we've ever come up with. That's what the whole goal is to make it safe and easy. And
Yep, especially as we head in towards the months that involve snow.
yes.
Yep.
So, no, that's what this is after. So.
Yeah, I know we got more time in it, like all of our projects, than we want to admit, but when you can stand on the ground, that's what we noticed the first time we put the diesel dually together is when you can stand on the ground, flip a switch, and hand the fuel nozzle into the next guy, it just made it really nice and easy. Yeah, I don't think we're going to regret anything.
No, I know we won't.
All right, so there we were. We finally got the tank in, but then I had to start wiring a whole bunch of stuff to actually get all the lights working again on the headache rack. There's so many hours of my life where we're just standing in one spot and I'm just sitting there using multiple wire pliers, strippers, different things like that. And I just stand there and I wire and I wire and I wire. But the end result actually was pretty good. Okay, it has been a busy day, and if you look at this kind of crazy right there, well, that's kind of one of my normal projects. Just kind of snowballs on you all the time. Well, I've been wiring right here. You can kind of see it here. I've been wiring all these different connectors in because yesterday we had to cut all of those harnesses so we could get the headache rack off, and then so we could trim it so we could get this tank in the back. And so if you can see here, we got the headache rack back on, we got the tank back in, and then now I just finished wiring. Been standing here for about 2 hours, but I'm just happy. So now is that time frame that I love this moment, because now is that time frame that I love and hate. I love this moment right here. We have the excitement of, hey, all of this should work. But if this doesn't work with all the switches on the dash, then I'm sad. So right now it's like that perfect time frame, like there's no letdown yet, but believe me, there's a possibility for letdown. So I'm gonna throw the switches on in the cab and we will see if we have all of our lights. I'm hoping we do, we should, but hey, when you cut, I don't know, 25 wires, hey, anything's possible. So we'll try it. Yes. Oh, we got everything. It looks like everything's working with the switches. Oh, nice feeling. Very, very nice feeling. Yeah, okay, it should have worked, but hey, I've done this long enough to know sometimes a relay can just be the reason an engine doesn't want to start in a 70 Mustang. Right now we have the next portion of the problem. We have the tank move forward. We got the headache rack back on. We have the fuel pump now in a different spot, which means we had to do a whole bunch of wiring to get that to work. All right, so here's what we ended up doing. Come up to the front of the truck. You're gonna see is we have your typical Ford Super Duty, and we have a Group 65 battery. And right off these battery ports, we already have these two wires, which go to our boost ports down here. And then so we ran a 4-gauge wire off the positive over this way to our Mega 100 fuse. And then leaving the fuse panel, we actually have a 4-gauge wire along with the 4-gauge ground, ran down the frame rails of the truck to our back panel here. And a lot of people, here's the dilemma with wiring. Once you kind of got your mind made up of what you want to accomplish, what you really find out is whether it's 8-gauge, 6-gauge, 10-gauge, 12-gauge, 4-gauge, it all has an expense, but it's usually not that much more money just to go to the next size bigger wire. So running a 4-gauge, if you can see it here, right there in our panel, or right there in our back box, running a 4-gauge ground and a 4-gauge positive is way overkill for this project. But what you kind of find out is it's not really that much more to go from like 8-gauge wire to 4-gauge wire. And if you're gonna do it, why not? Let's build it big enough and heavy enough so if down the road, if we wanna add anything, we can kind of build off this platform. And that's basically what we have done. And it's worked out in the past when I've done stuff like this, it's worked out really good because whether it's super hot out or super cold out, pumps like the fuel pump up there can actually draw more power than expected. And this way, when everything's just overbuilt, you know you really never have a problem. And that's the way I want it. Here, you can actually see in the box itself, I used a dead switch, I used a battery disconnect switch for the on-off, and then we had 2 boost ports, and then we have 2 fuses there. And those fuses right there, even though the 4-gauge is already fused, each one of those fuses are for the fuel pump. And then because we couldn't leave well enough alone, we actually, not only did we add a fuel pump, but then we figured, hey, why not add an oil pump? And so we're kind of in the middle of the project, but the green tank's the fuel tank, the rusty tank there is actually going to be the hydraulic oil reservoir. And over this way, we actually have a 12-volt electric pump that we bought off Amazon. And then my dad's going to set it up so we can actually run a reel just like this. We're going to run a hose reel so we can now have electric pump hydraulic oil into equipment if it needs it. So this project just turned into way more of an in-depth time project than we ever expected, but the end result we're hoping is really nice. Okay, so it has been a busy, busy day, and we are back working on our service truck here. Now the good news is we got the fuel side all the way done. We have the new pump, we have everything wired in our box here, we have the pump wired in, and you can tell I got the hose here ran to the other side of the tank. Last night my dad actually backed it out, put about 20 gallons in because we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any leaks. I mean, this was a tank we bought on Facebook Marketplace, you know, like, all right. Now we're gonna turn the pump on and we're gonna see if we got any leaks between the pump, the hose, and the nozzle going up. See how this goes. Oh! Okay, so if you can see it on the shop floor, we got a leak. Okay, we gotta figure that out. Oh, I just made a mess.